What's going on, everybody? I'm Kwabena Odoro-Gwedu, and welcome to Mxnday Morning Radio. And on this episode, we have philanthropist, entrepreneur, and photographer Darius Carter, and we're discussing everything from business, self-development, and relationship. I hope this episode inspires you and expands your perspective.
1, 2, 3.
The philanthropic artist, D. What's going on, bro?
What's going on, big dog, man?
I appreciate you coming through, man.
Yes, sir.
I appreciate you, dog. So, you are the prime example of a servant leader. You are a multi-faceted artist. You put people first. I really want to get into your story of where it all started for you. You from Chicago?
Born and raised, man.
What part of town?
South Side. I think that's the only side. That's the only side. You from Chicago, South Side. It's the only side.
All right, take us back to Young D. What was he on?
Man, we going back to Young D on the South Side of Chicago, I have to say. I was just a very outgoing kid. I got into a lot of trouble, a lot of mischief, for sure, a lot of jokes. But I was just a kid on the block, playing ball, riding bikes. That was always my thing, man. Just hanging out and going to the candy stores and stuff like that. But I stayed out of trouble in the crazy trouble ways, but I got into mischievous.
Like what?
Trouble. So I'll get caught throwing rocks or something like that. But as far as looking into gang life, drug life, nah, I wasn't looking into.
What kept you out of that? Because Chicago's heavy with that.
Sports. Honestly, just like any hood, any metropolitan city, sports is always the thing that keeps most kids on the straight and narrow that becomes celebrities. Like you think about LeBron James or Derrick Rose. These are guys. Derrick Rose grew in the same neighborhood that I'm from.
Yeah. What neighborhood is that?
In Inglewood. So it's understanding this is a person who plays so well that he had the community backing him. No, we're going to protect him. We're going to make sure he make it. He has to make it. Because you have so many fallen stars that we see growing up on the courts that were yeah, this guy used to be better than MJ. And now he's a drug fiend or something like that.
That's crazy. There's a lot of stories like that in the hood.
Yeah.
So you're a classically trained theater guy.
Yeah. So how that ironically started, man, I love basketball dearly, but I have found a niche. While in high school, I was doing an apprenticeship for film and video. So it was for me, in the beginning, it was making extra money. And if anybody's watching or hearing, you're from Chicago, you probably heard of After School Matters. This is a program that they created in those urban areas that will give kids an outlet. So they ain't just playing basketball or riding bikes. It gives you an opportunity to do something during the summer. And then get paid at the end. So it was you get a stipend at the end. So I started I'm gonna give me a nice little check.
Yeah.
End of the summer. I think it was $300. So at the end of the summer, but I'm in high school. $300 is
go a long way.
So I'm okay, cool. I gotta do a month of this.
Yeah.
And some change. And then I grew a liking. We're shooting on little DV cams that had little cassette tapes, and then we're plugged into the Bubble Max to then work on the project.
The ones with the color in the back?
iMovie. Yeah. With iMovie. So it was we're cutting up little projects that we're shooting around this community college is where the program was held. And I was this is actually very fun, because it was something that I had never seen before. It was something that was foreign to me. I always was a guy that never wanted to follow the crowd but do something different.
Yeah.
Everybody that I grew up with was playing basketball or sports, football, or doing music. It was everybody's doing the same thing. And then I came across something that nobody was doing. So now when I'm coming back to the block, they're oh, Darius, where you was at? Oh, I was, it's the Kennedy King. I was at the community college. I had this After School Matters program doing film. Oh, okay. And it was it's something different about that kid. I created that curious factor, now that I'm thinking of it, that kind of like how it was for Derrick Rose. It was like, he's going to be in the NBA. We have to protect him. So it was like, Darius is going somewhere, so we have to protect him. So I guess it created this thing where I created a space where I can still be protected and still be able to explore and see things.
How long were you in theater?
Well, I got into theater when I got into college. So what is that, 08? I think that was. So 08, when I got to college, I went for film studies, and I ended up changing my major to theater and acting.
What made you switch?
I kind of got bored
With film?
with in the beginning, because I had learned so much through like 4 years of an apprenticeship. I became a senior apprentice. I was like an intern for the program by this time. I left high school. So when I got to college, I was learning a lot of the basic stuff that I had already knew of, because I've already experimented. I've already looked at things and played with things. So I was like, this is not really keeping me interested. And I talked to one of my professors, like, maybe you should try acting.
So you did it. You did everything you need to do behind the lens. He was like, all right, it's time for me to.
Right. For me, I was like, no, I'm not the kind of guy that I don't want to be in front of it. I just want to be behind it and make it look beautiful. And I did an acting class that summer, and I fell in love with it, and I changed my major and never looked back.
Really? Did you do any plays?
I did a lot of plays. Did a lot of, as we know in our urban community, the chitlin circuits. If y'all don't know what those are, that's like the Tyler Perry plays that had first came out on DVDs.
At
like
the churches.
You're shooting for the churches, the black community. So I did a lot of those in Chicago. I had great opportunities of performing at like the Chicago and the Cadillac Palace or Goodman Theater. Like these are like me doing stand-in jobs for actual plays. So it was like, this is an amazing place to be. And I got to a place where I was like, yo, I need to go further than just this theater stuff.
Yeah. How far did you go in theater before you realized, okay, what's the next level?
I think it was when I had consecutive, it became back to back. I had so many directors reaching out in Chicago, like that were like black playwriters, and they were like, we've seen you in this and we would love this part, we would love you to play it. And I was getting wore out. Like I was like a Jamaican, like I had like 5 jobs in Chicago, like while I was in school. So I was like doing acting, I was working at a science museum, I was teaching at like 2 elementary schools. So I was just like, I can't do too many productions. Like I need something that's not going to require so many rehearsals. Because we had so many rehearsals, had to be off book by the 4th rehearsal. And then you're doing blocking, and then you're doing, in the theater where you have so many, it takes months to put on a production.
And how many shows would y'all do during the life cycle?
We'd probably do like 2 shows on the weekend.
2 shows like Saturday and Sunday, or 2 shows
like
a day?
Matinee and an evening show, on like a Saturday and a Sunday. And then, so it'd be like 2 shows a day. So like 4 shows total for the weekend.
What were you taking away from all that? Like as this is going on, what kind of skills you think you picked up?
Man, you pick up the skills of learning how to just teamwork, how to communicate with different individuals, because as an actor, artists are all different. We're already different as people, as human beings. But to be an artist, you have an idea of something, of a craft, of photography, of acting, whatever it is. So it's like you have different unique views than I do on a lot of stuff. You have different techniques that works for you that don't work for me. So that's just one of those things that, it grabbed me. And I was like, yo, this is something like this is going to be fun.
I feel like the discipline for somebody who does theater plays is really different from somebody who like acts on screen. Because you can cut, you can slice, you can put things together, but on a stage, you can't mess up.
You can't. But it's a pros and cons to it too.
Like what?
When I tried to transition over from theater to film and television, it's like, yeah, we can run 1 or 2 lines, cut, run it again. all right, cut, new deal, change, switch up. We're changing the setup. We're gonna get this angle now. We're gonna run the same line. You're getting probably 3 pages in a day, 4 pages or something like that in a day, and for me as an actor on the stage, you have to learn how to be over dramatic because you have to sell it to your audience. Where television, you have to dial it back. You gotta be like this. You gotta be real life. This is just us having a conversation. The mics will pick you up. The mics will pick you up. Whereas you look at, like, I cringe a lot of times when I watch TV and I see a lot of theater actors who done a lot of theater and then they're just jumping into film and television because then it's like it's doing too much. It's like, in my mind, I'm like, film and television should definitely portray reality as much as possible. Like, you have crazy aunties and uncles, but sometimes it's not to the extent of that comical. I'm like, it's too much. It's too, it's a little bit too much. Sometimes you gotta take it back to make it more powerful, to be like, yo, that's so real. Like, I've done that before. Like, I felt like that before.
I feel like that's how Tyler Perry was able to just connect with a certain community and grow his brand, because he's telling real stories about from his perspective, of course.
Yeah, he was telling and I admire so much about Tyler and his movement, and how he's doing his thing. It's just like he started with his plays, and that became a huge hallmark, and they became on DVDs, and everybody was buying the DVDs, and we're watching. This is the first time really in history people are buying in millions, buying a DVD of a play.
He was like the Master P of the film industry. Master P selling tapes out of his trunk. Tyler Perry was selling plays.
He's selling plays, dog. He was slanging plays.
He was using all of his money to just put on certain plays when nobody would show up to.
When nobody would show up to, and being consistent with it, and then kept the crew.
Yeah. And
took care of them. When it all came out, that's what you do for your team. You're like, you guys were here with me when we had no money, and y'all had to put money in to make this work. Now I got a small town, basically, and I can put you on shows all day.
So when was the transition for you to come from Chicago to LA? How did that happen?
Well, 2 things. I had already kind of desired to move to LA. I'm like, this is a place to be. Film and television, that's what I want to go into. Let's move here.
So you already gave up the theater.
I was willing to let go of theater to move here, and then on top of that, I was in a relationship.
Brought you to LA.
I was in a relationship for 3 years, and 2 of the years we were long distance. She was in LA before me.
Wow.
So I had that as well as a lasso of like, when you're coming to LA. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm ready to move to New York.
Was she in the industry as well?
Not really. No, she wasn't in the industry at all. She didn't really even really understand her purpose of what she wanted to do yet, like what she desired to do. So it was very tough and difficult for her to navigate and move within LA. And for me, I knew what I wanted to do, and it was still tough and difficult. But for her, it was like she really didn't know. So like, maybe I try New York until I find something that sticks. So I moved out here, and I was like, no. You move to New York, that's another theater town. Like, I don't want to be around theater. I want to get into television and film. LA, I want to try it out. I've been here plenty of times to visit her, kind of understood the atmosphere, the energy here. And I was like, yeah, I love it. I like LA.
Yeah.
And I made that jump.
How's it been?
Oh, my God.
What was the first couple
Six
of
Flags.
Years like?
It's Six Flags. I would say my life in LA in these past 8 years has been Six Flags. It's been a lot of roller coasters. But through every roller coaster, I've had an experience that I've learned something that built a characteristic within me. Like, I've learned, not even just the knowing how to read people and read situations, but stuff within yourself to understand that was ego or that was pride. Oh, yeah. Like, this situation could have got done a lot faster and a lot easier if I would have had no pride attached to it.
It's crazy because you can be the humblest person and come to LA and develop an ego.
Absolutely.
Just because of your surroundings, the people around you.
Your surroundings, your influence.
Gotta start, this is how I got to move.
your influence. Yeah, you see people that there's people that when I first moved out here, we all were on the ground running, chasing the same dream. And a lot of them are on television shows currently.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? They kept the consistency. They kept it going. I had so many roller coasters happening. My focus was shot, and I'm very focused as a person. So for me, that was a red light for me to know that something was wrong.
Was it your relationship that was throwing you off focus, or just
that threw me off?
Being in a whole new city?
I think that threw me off, the relationship thing. When I first moved here, I was hitting the ground running. I was on sets. I was like, whatever I need to do, I'll start from the bottom. I'm like, let me go down to Century Casting and do background acting. Let me get tied to LA Casting, LA online. And I was doing everything you can think about. And I was on shows. I was like consistently on set maybe 5 to 6 times a week. And then when we broke apart, I was here for like maybe 2 months, not even 2 months.
After y'all broke up?
When we broke up. When we broke up, I had only been in LA for like maybe 2 months, going on 2 months, because it was still within February.
So what'd you do after y'all broke? Did you go back home?
I was about to go back home.
You was about to?
And I got a call. I was literally getting ready to pack up because I didn't know where I was going. We broke up. I have nobody out here that I know. I knew the relationships I built. I built some great brotherhood with this organization I got attached with when I first moved out here. So I was like, okay, that's kind of like my community. But I had no one. You know what I'm saying? I had money. I had some savings. So I was just like, I could either get me a plane ticket and get me a hotel room for tonight, and then fly out in the morning, head back to Chicago. It's going to hurt because I'm going to have my head down and pride is shot. Like, I moved to LA and I had so many people in Chicago that were rooting for me. Yeah. And this happened. And now here I am back in Chicago where I started, and how am I going to transition? Because I definitely need to get back to LA. That was my mindset. Like, so that's what was running through my mind. And I was on the phone with my sister after we had kind of decided that it's best for us to be apart. I was on the phone with my sister, and I got a call from someone who I consider is like an uncle to me. He was like, hey, what are we doing with the kids on Friday? I was working with the mentor program, and one of the guys that were part of it was calling me to see what activity we were going to do. And I was like, oh, I'm not even going to probably be here. This is like on a Wednesday. Like, I might be flying out tomorrow. He's like, well, what happened? And I told him, took a deep breath. And he was like, you're not going home. He was like, you're going to stay with me. He said, pack up all your stuff. I'm going to clean out the car and I'm on my way. And I'm just going, you stay with me. I stayed with him for my first year. He came all the way from Sherman Oaks, if y'all know LA, down to Koreatown and picked me up with all of my stuff and brought me back to his 1-bedroom apartment. He was like, there's a couch. You're a young man. He said, and you'll be good. I'm here for you. He said, but you can't go back home. You've hit too much strides so far that you can't go back. But in that moment, my momentum slowed down in that moment. Like, I couldn't think about anything else.
I mean, you went from a relationship to living on a friend's couch.
Within a month and a half.
In a month and a half of living in a new city. So what'd you do after that?
Man, listen, I went through a slump for like a good 2 months until the guy I was staying with, Dion Vines, he was like, you got to get up. You got to go out. You got to do something. You ain't about to sit around my house. You got to do something. He's like, they got events going on. You better go put on one of them suits or whatever you got in the closet, the Chicago style, go throw something on and go out. You're a young, handsome guy. There's plenty of women out here you can go date, but you need to get back focused on why you out here. And I was like, you know what? You're right. And I got dressed and I went out, went to like a little mixer that a lot of industry people are at. And it just felt good to be back. I saw a couple of familiar faces that I came across in the first few months that I was here, and I was just like, oh, okay. And they see me out. It kind of was like a party, if you will. It was like people hadn't seen me, so it was like a miss me type of thing. It was like oh man, how you been, bro? I haven't seen you. You know, you've been doing this. I know you've been probably working a lot, not knowing like, no, I've been on a couch with Duncan Hines and sweats, like just watching TV, rock bottom, just trying to figure out my life. And like, I packed up everything. I had a house in Chicago. I packed up everything and moved here for a relationship and for a career in which I was still doing background, and the relationship had dissolved. And now I'm here on a couch. You know, so in my mind was just like, you talking about being humbled. You go from having a house to on a couch. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Within a month and a half. That transition was just too fast that I was just trying to grasp it all before I can get back into the field, back into the world.
You had to recalibrate yourself.
Definitely had to recalibrate myself.
So what did you do to bounce back on your feet? What did you do for money?
Luckily, Dion didn't really ask for money too much, but then it got to a point where I was like, I know I need to go look for work. Yeah. And I just started applying for jobs. And I remember my first job was at a call center merchant company. Like the credit card swipe machines that you see at stores. I worked for the company that sold those. So if you had a gas station, you would call me if your machine's not working, it's not accepting cards. And I would kind of talk you through how to troubleshoot it. Or I would give you, or if it's the first of the month, you're calling about your statement because you see how much you were charged. And you're like, yo, can I get this Lord? And I'm working out deals. So I was in a very cubicle job sense. I was making nice money. My hours were crazy, but it was good for me because it was like, if I'm in here at 5 a.m, I'm out by like noon, 1 o'clock.
And you were still staying with your friend at the time.
I'm still staying with my friend at the time. So I'm out in the daytime. I can probably get home, be responsible, take about a good nap. Yeah. And then I can go out and do all the festivities, go on auditions and stuff like that.
How will you be able to balance out auditions and
Well, my mindset was like when I got off work, I would just thug it out, go on auditions. You know, listen out for casting calls. It's like while I was at work, it was a lot of work, but there was a lot of downtime too. Like during the week, like middle of the month, there was no calls really coming in. Like if it was a call, it was like my terminal's not working. Like, oh, did you have a power outage? Yeah, or maybe it didn't batch out last night. Let's batch it out. Oh, that worked? Cool. You know, and then we're like there. So I'm like looking up stuff online, like just finding opening casting calls while I'm at work. Yeah. And like, oh, okay, I can do that. This is at what time? Okay, cool. And when I get off, sometimes I'll have clothes in the car. I'm a change at work, and then I'm gonna head on down to the audition or the open call.
How long did you do that for? Till your
I did that for like came through. My solid gig was, I think I had it for like a good 4 months, maybe 4 or 5 months, until my body was shutting down physically. I wasn't getting enough sleep. I'm in at 5 for work. And when I get off work, I'm doing acting stuff and going to events late at night, getting in the house at like 2 a.m, to get back up at 5. I was like, I had ran late sometimes and it just was looking bad on a work performance. And I actually got let go. It's like, you got to go.
You got let go?
After did.
What, 6 months?
After like 6 months.
What was the move after that?
The move after that was like next on the drawing board, where I still rock out this acting career because I was still working with like management and all that kind of stuff. So I had came along. My manager at the time was at this event or this place and was talking to a guy who owns a security company. It was like, yeah, they're looking for some young guys. You know, she's like, I actually got a client who needs like a little part-time gig that can be flexible. He's like, well, this is perfect. You know, we can get him his guard's card and then he can work, you know, depending on the hours, whatever job he wants. You know, if it's like late night or graveyard shift, where he can have his whole day to him. And I did that. I got my guard's card, and my first company I was with was a company called Andrews International, and they covered Hollywood. And I started working at Kimmel.
You started working at Kimmel as a security guard.
As a security guard.
What was that like?
That was it was interesting. It was fun. It's probably one of my favorite jobs that I've had, like like punch-in jobs.
Did they have you security like in studio, or were you outside? Or?
It was like inside, outside. So like at first it was like I started on the bottom. So it was like I was there for the concert series. So I'm out there on my polo just watching the crowd while the concert is going on. And then I kind of worked my way up a little bit more, where I'm now in the suit and I'm inside. So I'm like manning down the green room where the celebrities are in. Like, oh yeah, so-and-so is in this room right here.
So you're getting like a first-hand perspective of where you want to be.
Where I want to be. I'm seeing how studios are ran. I'm seeing how a show is shot. I'm seeing how the set works. I'm seeing positions. I'm seeing what this position do. And on top of that, I'm like your cheerful, security guard in the show. Everyone there at Kimmel was like a family.
Yeah.
It was like a family. Like Thanksgivings, like that week of Thanksgiving, Jimmy will have a Thanksgiving feast for the staff in the lot. Like he would be at the carving table cutting your meat and putting it on your plate. So it was like more of a family sense when you were there. And then I became the front door guy.
What's the front door guy?
That was the like spot for like if you're a security guard there. I'm standing in front of the building on Hollywood Boulevard, on the Walk of Fame.
Yeah.
So when people walk past, the doors are open because the show's about to shoot in the next few hours. So they're like, oh my God, is Jimmy Kimmel in there? Like, yeah, he's here. It's like, oh man, this is the show they shoot it here. Like, yeah. Like, you're his security guards? Like, yeah, I'm one of the security guards. So I've gotten pictures of so many people with people around the world. And they're like, yo, that's that security guard like that works there. I've been in so many of the bits that they've had. I've thrown out ideas for different, it's just one of those things. It's like, it's always felt like it was open for you to speak as an artist. Like, and then I never hid my faith in anything. So even at work, I wasn't out bold like, oh, I love Jesus Christ. But my faith was known to a point where I got a lot of guys that that went to church with me, jobs there.
Really? Okay, so were you still going to auditions at this time too?
I still was going on auditions because I was making a nice amount of money where I was able to provide for myself. Yeah. And still be able to go out.
And were you still living with your friend?
Huh?
Were you still living with your friend?
No. So by this time, when I started working here, I was in a transition of us moving from Sherman Oaks. He was moving, no longer was going to have the lease there.
So y'all like roommates at this time?
We were roommates at this time. I was paying some rent. By this time, 'cause I was working at the merchant company, and that's when I started paying rent. And then when I kind of transitioned out of that and was getting into the security work, we were in the midst of moving as well. Okay. So I had kind of found another spot in North Hollywood, and we kind of split and went separate ways. And that's when I was working the security job. I was like living in like North Hollywood. Had like 2 roommates in this apartment.
In one bedroom apartment?
In a 1-bedroom apartment.
That's rough. So, after how long were you a security guard for? How long did you keep that job?
Oh, maybe 3 years.
3 years.
I think that was like the longest that I was with a company. I was with Kimmel for like 2 years, maybe. Okay. And then I was transferred over, and I was working on Grey's Anatomy for like a year.
Okay, so you got to see several.
Maybe like 6 months.
You got to see several sets, several different TV shows.
Yeah.
Were you able to get on any of them, like in the background work?
Kimmel, for sure. But as far as Grey's, no. For Grey's, I was doing a graveyard shift. So it was like sweet. Like I had kind of asked for like a better shift. So I can, I was working at Kimmel during the day. That's my life. Like, it was hard to go on auditions and stuff like that because the show shoots at like 3, 4 in the evening. So I'm there before the show starts, and I'm there till the show's over, and then the concerts at like 6, 7 o'clock.
At what point did you start getting into photography?
Right after Grey's. That story, I was so. Check this. Working at Grey's Anatomy, right? I'm working the graveyard shift at the gate when the cars come in. And so I get the people as they're coming in the morning. I come in at night, everyone has left, and I relieve the guy there. And in the morning, people are coming in to work, the directors and the producers. And I would get there one night, and I see the call sheet, and the call sheet says Denzel Washington. And I was like, whoa. It's like the Denzel Washington directing episode, Grey's Anatomy. I was like, is this like the Denzel Washington? Like, yeah. He's going to be directing like 2 episodes, I think. Episode takes about a week to shoot. So I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Generally, through the week, probably like 5 times I might see this person. So I'm like, oh, okay. So I'm excited about this the morning shift coming in. Seems like Denzel Washington is about to come through my gate in the morning. Yeah. And I'm like, this is a guy I admire. And he came through for sure. And I was just like, yo. He was like, hey. He said, I said, I know who you are. I was like, okay. I said, your parking spot is straight ahead. Point him in the direction. He's like, okay, great. Goes through the gate. Someone breaks me for like a little break or lunch. Yeah. And I kind of like walk, like heading back to like our building. And I see him kind of like standing and like looking at the stages. So I'm guessing like he looks like he's trying to figure out which stage he needs to go to first. Yeah. So I'm like, you looking for, you need, he's like, yeah, I'm trying to find out, our scene, stage 1. But, oh, this is this stage here. He's like, oh, okay, cool. He likes to be in there early and actually walk the set before they even start. So I was like, oh, okay, cool. So he gets in there. And from time to time, I might get a little nod or hit or hate. And one day in particular, I had, and this is like the 3rd time I have ever met Denzel Washington in my entire 3rd time was on the set of Grey's Anatomy. I've met him 2 times before, but it was like in passing, like, oh my God, it's Denzel Washington.
Like on the street, like.
Yeah. Like I was at a cigar shop one time, and he walked in.
That was rare.
And then I was somewhere else, and I was like, oh, this is crazy. It wasn't even like me in the industry working and found him. It was just like, and he came through here, and he asked me one day, he was like, what do you do? I was like, I'm the security guard on the lot. He was like, no, what do you do? Like, is this what you... I said, no, I want to be an actor, I watched a lot of your stuff, I admire. I was like, but yeah, I moved to L.A. as for an actor, from Chicago, theater guy, coming into film and television. He was like, okay. It's like, why are you here? I got to make some money. Yeah. It's like, I'm sure you can make money some other way where you can have your own schedule to do the things that you need to do. And I was like, yeah, I don't know. I like video. So they do that. It's like, ain't no money in video unless you go, endorse me. He's like, nah. And I was like, he said, well, if you can do video, you can take a picture. So everybody in LA wants their picture taken.
So he gave you the idea.
I said, you know what? You're right. It's time to go. And what's crazy is when I was working at Kimmel, I had the word dropped into me about the Carter's Touch. I didn't know what the Carter's Touch was. It's just like, this is something I need you to do. And I'm thinking like it's more of like philanthropic work because I did a lot with the homeless community, mentor programs. So thinking it's like something like a nonprofit I need to start. And that moment when I'm talking to Denzel, he's like, yeah, you need to, everybody in LA like their picture taken. I think I had saved up like $3,000. Because at the time, when I left Kimmel, I moved again. I moved like 30,000 times in LA. But I was staying with someone in Hollywood, and I wasn't really paying rent at all. I was just helping paying the Wi-Fi bill. So I saved up a lot of money, and I literally put my 2-week notice in that day. I got my, I went and bought the best DSLR that was out at the time, which was the Mark III. And I had to wait for my last paycheck to even use it. So it was sitting in my drawer, and I waited till I got my last paycheck, and I bought a used lens. And I was like, the guy at Sammy's that I went to buy the lens from, he was like, well, what are you shooting? And I was like, I don't know, maybe like headshots, but I like film too. He's like, well, maybe you need a prime. 85 is like the top, I said, okay, cool, let's go there.
It's like $1,000 lens though.
But I bought a used one.
Okay.
So the used one I bought was like 5 something. And it was like a 1.8. And when I say that thing made me, I started shooting. I took it on a trip with me, like to Big Bear with the friends. And then from that trip, people were like, yo, I need new pictures. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Let's set it up when we get back. I'll set it up. I was thinking of it as a hobby and was like, I know I'm going to make some money off of it, but I can get some practice right now. And people really liked the pictures. One girl in particular, I did headshots for her. She got booked on a lot of roles off of that headshot. And I was like, oh, she was like, yeah. She was like, I'm going to send more friends to you. I was doing headshots for like $50, $75. It don't matter. Just how many looks we can do. And I didn't know the numbers. I didn't know what money, how much what was. Yeah. Just starting it out.
So were you still doing security at that time?
No, I left.
So
I put my 2-week notice in that day.
And you went full in on photography?
Full in. I spent every last dime that I had on my Mark III, and I waited for my check to come, which was like 8 something, and I bought that used lens, and I had like $300 left over.
So after you started, you went all in on photography. Were you still going on auditions?
No.
Were you still trying to get into acting, or you just said, all right, I found it?
No. I had got caught up in the photography because I had so many people calling me.
Yeah.
It was like, oh yeah, this is the $50 guy, $75 guy.
Yeah.
For headshots. And for me, I was like self-taught photography. Like video, I studied and I learned. I went to school. I know the video. So photo, I'm like, can't be that hard. It's just capturing a still in motion. And I know all the 3 lighting components. And it's just about capturing it and still. So I was like, okay, here we go. And it became a huge influx of people calling for pictures where I hadn't had time to go on auditions and stuff like that. And I was like, well, maybe I need to stack my paper up where I can then move and get me a nice place by myself. And then I can be able to really focus on auditioning.
So once you got your photography business started, were you still wanting to act, or you were just like, oh, I'm making so much money now, I'm just going to enjoy this for a while?
And I think I went through a identity crisis.
In what way?
In that moment, I was just like, well, God, who am I? Like, I'm finding real cheer in photography. Like, it's just not something to make money. You know what I'm saying? It's not something that I'm dreading that I got to do. It's like, I really love taking pictures. And I love the response from the clients from the pictures. I'm like, oh, I did that. I made that person happy. I captured a moment that they would have forever. So it's just like, yo, like, I really like this and enjoyed this. Like, is it wrong that I'm not in my head feeling bad that I'm not acting right now? That was just like, oh, I feel like I should be wanting to act still. I should be going on auditions still. But I just didn't have the desires no more. I felt like I picked up a new toy.
Yeah, you found a new interest. Because you felt your identity was an actor because you came in theater, because you came to LA to act. So now you found yourself doing something else. It's like, what am I doing?
What am I doing? Then you start questioning, like,
again?
Is this what God wanted me to do? Like, he used acting as a ploy to pull me out here.
Yeah.
You know, and then that wasn't big enough. You know, the relationship was for sure that was going to pull me out here. I just don't know.
So while growing your business, were you dating at that time too? What was going on there?
Oh, during that time, was I dating? Yikes. No. So I was, after my ex, I started dating like maybe 6 months within that same year. Later in that year, I started dating someone. And we were rocking pretty cool, but I still was going through some stuff. I wasn't really ready.
Still going through transition.
So it didn't really work.
Yeah.
And we had this kind of like on and off type of like, one moment we're like hanging out real exclusive, and then one moment we're like kind of distant.
Yeah.
For like months. And then we're back at it again for like months. Yeah. And it was just like, we're just trying to see what this is. Like, I wonder what so-and-so is up to. You know, and during this period when I first started photography, we were in that break. Like, I wasn't in a relationship or dating nobody. Yeah. I have said many of times I am perfect by myself. Like, I was never the person that's like, I'm dying, I'm not in a relationship. I was so focused and driven on the goal at hand that my goal at hand wasn't just to be in a relationship, because that was one thing that I was going against the grain of. Like, society tells you by 30 you need to be in a relationship and married by this, and I'm always like, no, I'm gonna do things my way, kind of like how God wants me to navigate and move. I'm gonna move by the Spirit.
What shifted you, because you're a newlywed, you just got married, what shifted that? Like, what happened in your life where you was like, oh, she came around and changed your perspective about?
Yo, the story with that is just crazy in itself. I mean, yeah, the Carter Such business started, you know, clientele came in. I started to, price change, because then I started to understand the pricing. And then
started to scale up.
I started to scale up a lot more, because I started to get pulled in by the sponsorship world with brandings.
Yeah.
So I had name brands calling me, and I was like, oh, but we only have this much in our budget. And I'm like, that's what you got in your budget? And you're like scared of asking me that? Like, man, if you knew what I was taking before.
Hey.
And you start understanding the demand of like, this is why this costs this much.
Yeah.
This is why this costs this much. My mind, even when I bought my camera, I thought $3,000 was a lot of money, but I figured that was how much you had to spend on a camera. You know, now I see cameras, I'm like, I got to spend $1,600. I could spend $1,500 on a camera. Still got the quality that I needed. But I say all that to say that the Carter Such business was growing, and I jumped back out there again in kind of the dating world. After years have gone by. You
finally found some balance.
I found balance. I found what I needed. I made the money to be able to kind of live. And I was like, okay, I can come back out and date. I can go take some people out. And I was dating someone that we kind of had an on and off thing as well. And I think there's only been like 2 or 3 women that I've dated since I've been in LA, besides my wife. But it was one of those things where this was like the third person, and we had an on and off thing as well. We kind of slipped back into it. Business was doing great for me, so now I can enjoy my personal life.
With your wife now, y'all kind of had the rough start.
No, we didn't have a rough start. Me and my wife didn't.
The person before.
We kind of had a crazy start, slipped into some stuff, kind of had a baby scare.
You had a baby scare?
Had a baby scare. It wasn't, I was not a papa. So after that situation, I took another beat and I said, I'm done. Right now, my main focus, Carter's touch. Yeah. That's it.
Ain't nothing like a baby scare to put you back.
Ain't nothing like a baby scare to put you back in alignment. I said, that was God. Like, that was something to put me back in alignment. I said, I ain't even looking at a skirt. Like, I'm cool. I ain't even looking. I'm cool. And I had my friends around me that, we were like brothers and sisters now. This is a community of people that I've built since I've been out here. And they're like, no, D, you need love. Like, we know you need love. You love on everybody. You deserve to have it in your life. And I was like, no, if it comes down the line, I'm cool. I know I want kids. There's a lot of kids in the system that need to be adopted. I'll adopt. I'm cool.
So you was just fully against relationships. You were that scarred.
Scarred, gone, done. And then one of my close friends, Fatima, was like, she spotted me and one of her friends, my wife now, but her best friend, at a bowling alley. We was out having fun bowling, you know how we do. And she stated that we were flirting. She was like, oh, D, I seen that. Like, that would be good. I don't know why I never thought about it. Y'all should talk. And I was like, no, I'm cool. Like, I just got done with this. I'm in the midst, because I was still in the midst of a situation. I was like, we still got to get the results and stuff back. And I'm like, I just need to take a trip to Chicago. I went home for like 3 months just to regroup. And on top of this, y'all telling me the date. Like, I'm cool. This is in the midst of why this is happening. Like, no, what are you talking about? And to the point where they kept asking every day, every week or so. And then I was like, well, look, if the opportunity presents itself and we have a conversation, we'll see where it goes. And it was like, okay. And they kept me to it. It was like, hey, so we're having a little end of the summer bonfire at the beach. You should come. And I'm like, who's doing it? She's like, all the Spelmanites, they all went to Spelman. So like the girls were all throwing it. It was like, but you should come. We asked all our fellas, our friends to come through. It's like, Steve, you gonna be there? She's like, yeah.
Stevie's your wife now.
Stevie's my wife now. I said, yeah, I'll be there. I'll come through. So I took a chance. And at first it didn't look like it was gonna happen. I had no ride down there. I just said yes. I had no car.
Well, you didn't have a car living in there?
Didn't have a car. When I tell you, this is how you know. Listen, people out there. This is how you know you found the one. I had no car. Business for the Carter's Touch actually started to do bad. I was going, and especially with me dealing with personal issues with the baby scare and us trying to find out. Like, I had got to the place where I was like, I need to just go home to Chicago. I just need to regroup. I need to be around my family, people I know love me. I just need to be around.
Need to recalibrate again.
I need to recalibrate again. So for me, I was just like, I had nothing. You know what I'm saying? And Stevie at the time, she was a head manager at a Bloomingdale's, and she had her apartment and nice apartment and her beautiful car and all of these things, and I was just like, I have nothing.
It's intimidating
to provide for this woman. You get what I'm saying?
Can't do nothing for you, man. I'm gonna let you go on your way.
Works in retail. She has great taste. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, I don't know what, So that was another thing for me. Like, no, I'm cool. And then the day that they had the bonfire, I didn't know how I was going to get down there. My roommate showed up. I thought he was working. He was like, no, he pulled it up to yesterday, so we did it yesterday. So I'm free today. And I was like, oh, but I thought you wanted to go to the beach yesterday. He's like, no, but I still want to go. Say, you want to go to the beach today? He was like, yeah, let's do it. And I told him the situation. He's like, oh, this is God. We gotta go down there.
We on.
We went down, and when we finally found them at the park, we saw Stevie and her friend Fatima, and beeline to them. And then we were just talking, and before you know it, Fatima act like her name was called somewhere. Huh? What? And she walks off. My boy sees a Frisbee flying somewhere. He's like, oh, hold on, let me... And before you know it, just me and Stevie sitting there talking. And the ironic place is there's a camera. I think somebody had their phone, and it was recording a time lapse. And you see on the time lapse from the beginning, me and Stevie sitting there talking to the end of the park. So you see the sun going down to the sunset, to everything, to them closing the park. And we just kept talking. We moved to the little blanket, sat down, and we were just rapping to the place where I was like, yo, I feel so comfortable and safe with you. I feel like this isn't the first conversation we've had. This is a new lifetime. Like, we've done this before, and I asked her out. And it's like, I would love to take you to dinner this week.
That night or that
day. I asked her out in that moment. And she was like, yeah, I would love that. And we went out, public school, 818, Sherman Oaks Galleria. When I say we closed down the place, I will never forget it. Game 3 of the finals. Yeah. And we both wanted to see the game, but we didn't want to be that person on the date.
Just looking
so we
over
both
at TV.
was like, and she asked me, like, are you watching the game? It's like, because I'm trying to see it too. And I was like, yes, I'm trying to watch the game, but you want to watch it too? So we both watching the game. It just made the evening. The date was so genuine, and it was so good. And I was like, this is the woman who I can see mother my children. Oh. In that moment. I knew in that moment that this was my wife.
You saw your life after that.
I saw it in the moment. A date. I already knew it. For her, we took a few more dates. She explained, our second or third date, we did a little picnic not even a picnic. We just went to the park, just outside. Like, yeah, we can go to the park down the street. And for her, it was just so much vulnerability. She was like, guys keep slapping me upside the head. And like, this is what was real. And we made it exclusive.
How long were y'all dating before you popped the question?
I would say about a year and a half, maybe a year. I can't remember. I think it was about a year. Yeah.
And
it was fast.
What kind of disciplines were y'all practicing? Because y'all both had the intention that we're going to get married. Or did y'all never really talk about it?
Well, in a sense, it was out there. It was like everyone around us saw it. It's like my best friends, my close friends, community of friends, her friends were like, when they met me, they'd be like, this is it. This isn't like the play around game type of setup. This is like, you both have a mission, you both have things to do, you don't have time to play. Like, okay, cool. This is what we're going to do. We're going to do this. And we rock and we're compatible. And we just feel like we've been in this already before. Like, this just seems like we've had amnesia this whole time, and we finally came to the senses like, oh yeah, you're my wife. That's how it felt. So for us, it was just one of those feelings.
So you feel like you got a sense of awareness or a bigger awareness of where you wanted to go as soon as you met your wife now?
Yeah. We kind of both were in a place where we both had our traumas, our things that we went through, but we also grew from them. It's like we gained like I was saying, we gained characteristics, we gained places in our we checked our own heart and see where there was malice, or where there was ego, where there was pride, and fixed that. And it was like the moment that I fixed that within myself, I became whole.
Do you feel like you're still working on that now?
Yeah, you're gonna always continue to work on yourself, but you're only working on yourself to prepare for the next level. Because then once you get whole for that next level, you're gonna now have to prepare to get whole for the next level. So it's like becoming whole is a consistency thing. It's not just something that happens once.
Yeah. So what's the difference between who you were as a single man and who you are as a married man? What do you see that's different about yourself and your surroundings?
Well, the mindset now is I went from me becoming whole by myself and finding another person that was whole, and now it's becoming one whole. So it's like friendships and things like that are around me. I still have my friends, but my friends and stuff aren't as a priority as they were before. What's in priority for me and my mindset, and for her and her mindset, is like, this is our first time ever doing this. I've never been married before. She's never been married before. So it's like, let's not brush past this and rush this process, but let's take it day by day. Let's learn more about each other and the goals and the ambitions that we look forward to as we continue to grow in marriage and have kids. Like, what are the things we like? What are the things we want our kids to, like for me, my childhood, I can go back to Christmases where I'm in the front yard making snow angels. Yeah. She's from here. That's not one of her memories, but they did have memories of them in the backyard with tents. Yeah. And their friends are over spending the night and they're having a camp out in the backyard. I've never experienced that ever in my life in Chicago. I've never seen that. So it's like now you have these parents that have these things that's like, we know how memorable those moments were for us. What moments can we create that we can help create that can become memorable for our kids?
That's creating a new life.
We're creating a new life. That's what becoming whole together. So it's like that's what our mind and our ambitions are.
Do you think
towards.
Having a wife has helped you grow your business?
Absolutely.
Yeah. In what way?
Responsibility. Before, the Carter's Touch was just my responsibility. It was like, it's my business. I did all the paperwork and paid all the fees and stuff to create an LLC. And I'm working it as like, this is my job. It's my 9 to 5, how I make my money. Now, that moment that Stevie's dad walked her down the aisle and said, And the pastor said, who gives this bride away? He said, I do. In that moment, Stevie has become a responsibility to me. So it's like she can't no longer go to her dad for stuff. Yeah. So it's like now the Carter's touch has to be really, because this is my income and this is where the provision will come for my family. The responsibility of it is different now. It's not just a hobby that I turned into making money legit. It's become a stream of income to provide for my family.
How do you feel like your faith has played a role in your whole life? Pretty much coming here to LA, finding your footing, trying to figure out what direction you're going to take in the industry. How do you think your faith has carried you through the whole thing?
Faith is the only way to carry you through, because you're never going to see what's on the other side.
Yeah.
You're never going to see what's on the other side. And in the beginning, when I first moved out here and my ex and I broke up, that wasn't faith. That was pushed into a circumstance. So in a way, it kind of gave me a taste of what faith was like. Because it was like, I don't know what's going to happen on the other side of this, but I got to do something. And I know I can't go back into this apartment.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like it pushed me into something. Like I could have easily told my boy, nah, I'm not going to be here. I'm going to fly back to Chicago. I'm going to come back out here, though, later on. And I could have got me a hotel and then flew. But me making the decision to say, you know what, I'm going to stay here and just see what happens. That was faith of me just taking a risk of something that I don't know. I could have took the path of what I did know. Like I can go home and for sure have a place to stay and I can still get my jobs back and still be good to go.
Was there any point where you was like, you giving up?
Here in LA?
Yeah. Or just on your faith alone, you second guessing yourself, second guessing your beliefs.
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna have. I have those moments, from time to time, and it's not necessarily my belief. I never second guess my belief, specifically because of the highlight reel that I've created for myself, the wallet of receipts, if I will, that of what God has done in my life. From where I was and where I came from, how I was brought up to be where I am today, you can't tell me God isn't real. So my faith has never wavered. But as far as sometimes my faith within myself as an artist, but that's how you are as an artist. You're going to always be your worst critic. So there's times that I see my work and I'm like, what's happening? Like, I know I can do better than this. Like, I'll gain the energy to really prepare for a project, and then the day of the project comes and I'm shooting and I'm giving it my all, and then I go back and I'm looking and I'm like, it's just still not hitting for me. But that's not to say that the images or anything that I created was bad, because everyone raved about it. Everyone went crazy about it. It's published, it's here, it's there. But it's like I had to continue to learn that you can't get used to familiar. Yeah. Like you as an artist, or me as an artist, or like Spike Lee, for instance, he has his stamp. So like everyone goes to him for that stamp. They go for that dolly shot. We're going to look for that shot. That's a Spike Lee shot. That's his signature shot. So like when people look at an image, for me, this is what I wanted. This is what I prayed for. I wanted people to see a picture and say, that's the Carter's touch. Yeah. I can tell by just looking at it, that's the Carter's touch. I can tell the way he shot it and everything, and even the event, I can tell who shot that picture.
Do you feel like you found your originality when it comes to photography? Or
yeah.
do you think you're still searching for that?
No, I think I never really searched for it. The tagline for my company is capturing you the way God sees you.
Yeah.
And the reason why that's my caption is because I literally just listen to the Holy Spirit as I shoot. So I'm like, before I prepare for a project or a shoot, when I have my consultations with the client, it's really me getting to really know, like, who you are. I've prayed over this conversation. I'm having a conversation with you. I'm getting downloads. So as you explaining your look and what you're thinking about, your thought map, in my mind, I'm looking and I'm visualizing everything that I feel like are downloads from God. And I'm like, okay, so kind of like this and that. And I'm giving them examples of stuff that they've probably seen. And like, yes, exactly like that. And it's like, I don't know how I came up with that. Like, it's just some things just will fly through my mind in the moment. And the day of the shoot, we get those captures, but we take it to another level where it's like, I want you to be as candid as possible. A lot of my photo shoots aren't posing. It's like, I want you to be the most candid as possible because God needs you to be who you are. And me capturing that, you're going to get to see yourself and be like, that's me. Like, that's you. That's you happy. That's you getting married. That's you this. But that's you. I don't want you to have to pose to make the perfect picture because those are never the perfect picture. So it's like you got to get those. They have professional models for those pictures. You know what I'm saying? And then you have us, everyday people who want a good picture. It doesn't need to be, you're not a model. That's not your career.
How did you learn how to articulate yourself when it comes to shooting? Because sometimes when you first start out, you have an image in your head, but you might not know how to tell the artist or the model what's in your head. So how did you learn how to articulate your vision?
I think it was helpful because I came from behind the camera to in front of the camera to behind the camera. So I sat in the shoes of talent. And I understand what talent is looking for.
Yeah.
I know what talent, like on a higher level, they want to know what's my composition, what's my frame. Am I full body or these medium shots when I'm doing pictures? Is this a medium? Is this a full body? Is my hands in it? Is my feet in it? You know, I know certain questions. So the reason why I know how I've learned how to articulate is because I once was that person that just had a crazy, wacky vision of something. And I'm trying to get it to explain to somebody to get to know what I'm talking about. So for me, it's like, let's break it down into context clues. What kind of vibe are you looking? What kind of feel are you looking for? Vintage? Are you looking for a high editorial? Like I start naming out magazines. Are we looking like GQ, Elle, or these different type of magazines? Like what are we looking for? What are the look you're looking for? Send me a thought map. Yeah. So if you find pictures online, just send them over to me. And I'm like, oh, you're thinking in this style, this pocket. And then after the conversation of me hearing kind of your backstory, because I get to know about you as a person. Like what drove you to do this, whether it's a product shoot, what made you create the product, going into these things. And I kind of have an atmosphere of like, this is the kind of person that you are.
So once you got into photography, did you have somebody you inspired to be like, or did you have like, oh man, I like the way this person shoots?
No. Surprisingly, I never followed any photographers.
Yeah.
I think that's what made life a lot easier for me. I think I didn't look as I was competing with anybody. I just feel like I was in my own lane, just me and my camera shooting pictures and people would call me. So I never had malice with other photographers. I've never gotten in the way of other photographers. Go ahead, get your work. Do what you got to do. I know this is a hustle game, but I'm a huge advocate on God's hustle. So I'm like, I'm not really rushing to I'm not gonna squander an opportunity that I feel like could have been placed before me, but I'm not gonna be too eager to try to step on someone else to get an opportunity. Then I'm like, no, go ahead. Handle it. I know something's coming my way. I'm good to go.
So what do you think the next plan is, or how do you feel like you're going to take the Carter's Touch to the next level?
Right now, I'm implementing a few master classes. So I've, within the past year and a half, 2 years, I've had a lot of requests of teaching of newcomers or wanting to learn how to do photography, learning how to do photography in this current day and age where you have lifestyle photography, which has taken on so many columns. Before, lifestyle photography was just lifestyle photography. Now lifestyle photography is different on different levels. If you're an influencer, you just said a million followers on Instagram or something like that. You need images on your Instagram to look super professional, and you need those lifestyle pictures, or whatever the case may be. So it depends on what it is that you're looking for.
Okay. What about leadership? I know you and your wife are getting together. You guys are leading young couples to try to get them to where you guys are at.
Yeah. Well, I currently lead a small group with my church. I've been a small group leader for 5 years. So it's kind of like I don't want to say Bible study, because a lot of people come to small group thinking that it is a Bible study. And it's like, no, this is really a community of believers who are either just starting on their walk or on their walk, and they just need a group of friends or community that they can talk to when they're battling, when they're going through stuff, and they need a sound voice or an advice that can also hold them accountable. Yeah. So like we'll focus on a story in the Bible, or we'll do like this last semester we were on the faith and transition journey. So understanding about faith in the midst of transition and how having it. So we did different, every small group, we did a different topic that dealt with faith. Yeah. And we just pulled the Bible verse, a few Bible verses to pull out and understand what faith means in this form or fashion. And then just have dialogues and discussions of like, how have your week been? What have you been going through? What is your ideas of having faith and moving? What are some things that have held you back that you think? And kind of targeting those areas to help people continue to grow and move forward.
You feel like you've grown?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think I wouldn't be the human being that I am today if I didn't have small groups.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like when I first got the call to lead a small group, I was like, me? I've never once thought about even being a pastor's assistant.
Yeah. Let
alone leading a small group, being a shepherd, if you will.
How did that opportunity come to you?
One of my brothers in the church who was heavy in the ministry world at the church. I served there at the church a lot on the artistic side, so photos and videos. And he's more on the community-based sides of getting in touch with the community, helping newcomers, new people on their walks. So he was the head over small groups. And just the conversations that we had, and then he understands the mentoring that I've been doing for younger people who are looking to be an artist or looking to do different things, but also aren't afraid to say that they love Christ. Yeah. And he was like, I think you would be great because a small group, you're just kind of hosting it. You're bringing these people in. You're kind of laying the platform. You have this leadership skill that I feel like you can lay it out easy for everybody to understand. And then you guys can have a discussion. And I was like, okay, cool. So the third time he asked, I was like, yeah, I'll do it. I'll do it. And I did it. And I haven't really looked back. In the beginning, it was very scary. Yeah. Because I was like, this is a real responsibility. Like, these are people that are going to come here is looking up to me from the church. Like, this isn't on my name if I do wrong. This is on the church. Accountable. It
holds yourself accountable as well.
It holds me accountable.
The same thing I'm telling these people to do. I got to walk it out too.
Because I got to show them. So it made me, because like I got to at least be the one doing it.
Yeah. Well, D, man, you're an incredible leader, man. And I look forward to seeing your growth between you and your wife. What is something that you would tell somebody, your younger self? What would you tell your younger self? What advice would you give your younger self about who you are now?
Well, the advice I would tell myself, the younger version of myself, would be learn your identity. Learn who you are, so that you're not asking. Remember I told you earlier the story about the queen. So you don't learn your identity so you don't have to ask for something that's already yours. You have so many gifts, so many talents. And when I was younger, the only thing that I focused on a lot of times was just the basketball, just playing basketball. But the moment I stepped out of that, it was something, an entire world was presented to me. So it would be, if I could sooner, step out into something different, step out into faith, try it out. Especially then, my younger self, you have the energy and time, try it out. I didn't try a lot of stuff that I feel like I could have tried, and I would have been happy that I did it.